So, chapter 22 ended with some very strong emotions coming from the class during the rock ritual. Sounds like a lot of built up emotions finally spilled out, and Rachel actually starts to cry. Bastian had a very upsetting moment, so pretty intense. But we're going to go right into the next chapter, which is chapter 23, Tommy Feathers. 2:01 p.m. Tommy Feathers. Class 6238 stayed in a circle. The room was silent. I told you it was dangerous to run a class without a teacher, Jessica said. You guys thought I was crazy, but I was right. People can get hurt. And when I said that, I didn't mean just physically hurt. I meant 2 points for Jessica, Christopher mocked. Well, this is what I was talking about, she retorted. Kids aren't equipped to handle stuff like this. Look at Bastian. He had it coming, Rhonda said. Shut up, Tim told her. Hey, everybody, take it easy, Vicky said. That's over with. Look, it's not the end of the world, Karen said. A kid in our class died and some people cried. What's so horrible about that? Today's the 6 month anniversary, Missy said in a soft voice. Tommy died on October 28th. Everybody looked at the calendar. Rachel sat up. She took a tissue and blew her nose. I always thought it was weird, said Missy. What? That we stopped talking about him, Missy said. I mean, first he was here, then he was gone, and we just. What did you expect? Tim asked. I don't know, Missy said, shrugging her big shoulders. That we'd at least mention him once in a while. Rachel wiped her eyes. She took a deep, quavery breath, and the class turned to her as if she might speak, but she did not. It's true, Vicky said. We never talk about him. I think about him a lot, Robert said. Yeah, me too, Corey said. I've had dreams about Tommy. We never wrote about him, Jasmine said. Fact, Christopher said. He nodded. Let's write right now, Karen said. Come on, let's do it. No way, Tim said. He sat on his hand. I'm finished writing. I've got writer's cramp. Come on, Karen urged. We've got just enough time before the assembly. What I want to know is who made you the teacher? Tim demanded. You got a better idea? Karen asked him. Everybody got up and walked back to their desk. Rachel went to the stereo. She flipped through the CDs until she found what she was looking for, the 1812 Overture. The music began, lively, stirring. As much as anything, those notes brought the presence of Tommy Feathers back into class. Rachel had finally gotten her eyes dry, but now the tears started coming back, and she went to fetch the box of tissues. Missy. Yes, he was a little weird, but he was the sweetest thing. He adored Rachel. He'd look at her with those big puppy dog eyes, and he was so nice to me. He was mostly nice to everyone, and he was an amazing cook. I guess it runs in the family. He used to bring lots of stuff from Feather's Bakery into class. It was not good stuff if you were trying to lose weight, but it was always delicious. My personal favorites were the lemon donuts. Just before he died, he brought in raspberry pie, pieces for everybody in the class. I guess that was his goodbye gift to us. He made a whole pie out of golden raspberries and gave it to Rachel. Golden raspberries. I mean, who ever heard of golden raspberries? Tim. He had a big head. It sounds freaky to say that about him, but that's the thing I remember most. I remember last year when we went to an assembly for bike safety. We were all trying on helmets, but for Tommy, they had to find one that was an adult size, extra large. That big head made him look a little freaky. The first time my brother met him, he stared and I had to tell him to quit it. But it was pretty freaky seeing a kid with a head that big. Jasmine. Last fall, Mr. Fab said, not all stories have happy endings. Boy, that's for sure. I'll never forget seeing him at Feather's Bakery. His parents really loved him. You could just tell. They didn't care that he was a little slow, and they didn't treat him any different than anyone else. He waited on customers, boxed donuts, poured coffee, counted out change. They got up at 5 a.m. on weekend mornings to make donuts, and Tommy got up with them. Mom said they were trying to make him independent so he could run the bakery himself someday. Just before Christmas, I went into Feather's Bakery to get some jelly rolls. Mr. and Mrs. Feathers looked so sad. They didn't smile. They hardly said a thing. It was the saddest thing, their only son dead. I haven't been able to go back there ever since. Christopher. Fact. Tommy Feathers died on October 28th. Fact. My father has had at least a dozen patients die in the operating room during heart surgery. Fact. Everyone dies. It's sad, but it happens. Opinion. As soon as Tommy Feathers died, people stopped telling the truth about him. Fact. He was a pretty good cook, but his hands were never that clean. Fact. I've seen Tommy Feathers push down younger kids and make them cry. Fact. I've heard him tell dirty jokes, nasty jokes. Opinion. Tommy Feathers was not the nicest person in the world. I'm not saying he was evil. I'm just saying he had plenty of faults like everyone else. Why should we turn him into some kind of saint just because he died? Rachel. Dear Bastian, I'm sorry about what happened today. It's true I was mad at you because you teased Tommy. I wish I could pretend that you were the only one who did that, but you weren't. You're right. Lots of kids teased him, in little ways or big. I was mean to him too. I guess getting mad at you was easier than facing up to what I did. He used to send me little valentines during class. I'd roll my eyes or make a face at Missy. That would make Tommy so sad. I wonder if I'll ever forgive myself for that. You weren't always mean to him. I remember that time Tommy hit a home run in kickball. You and Tim picked him up and carried him around the field on your shoulders. You couldn't see his face because you were carrying him, but he was just beaming. You made him a hero that day. I'll never forget that. Sorry you got upset. I'd hate this to be the last thing you remember about this school. Sincerely, Rachel. The door opened. Bastian and John walked into the room. Some of the kids turned to look at Bastian. What are you staring at? John demanded. Without looking at anybody, Bastian walked over to his desk, took out a piece of paper, and started to write. Rachel brought her paper to Bastian and laid it on his desk. When Bastian ignored her and continued writing, she turned and went back to her seat. May I have your attention? Mr. Peacock said over the loudspeaker. All sixth grade classes should proceed immediately to the auditorium for the assembly. Okay, we better line up, Jasmine said, taking a deep breath. Assembly, Tom muttered. Who are we going to see? Some kind of storyteller, Karen said. His name is Cloth Salat. I think he's Hungarian. What kind of twisted name is that? Christopher asked. He went over to Robert and made his eyes squinty. Hi, my name is Cloth Salat. How do you do? This is it, guys, Karen said. Once we get into the auditorium, we're home free. Let's keep those lines straight. But not too straight, Jasmine put in. Come on, John said to Bastian. Go on ahead, Bastian said, writing furiously. I'll catch up. Are you okay? Missy whispered to Rachel. Rachel nodded. As she left the classroom, Sean came up to her. I was wondering, he said, can I walk you home today? Rachel raised her eyes to smile at him. She had not said a word, but the smile was as good as the word because it clearly said yes. And that is the end of chapter 23, Tommy Feathers.